to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports and sports gaming in your ear every single Thursday. My name is GoodGameBro, the guy that's kind of talking through his nose more than normal because my kids went back to daycare this past week and daycare germs are 100% real. The man over there that has a beard that is emerging, okay, it's coming along, okay, and he's also not sick. Well, that's Mills, my quote unquote incredible co-host. Mills, how are you?
I'm not sick because I'm a hermit. I don't go out.
Respect.
And when I do, I wear almost like a spacesuit. Have you seen the Razer masks?
Those look crazy.
Right? With the LEDs and stuff. For those who don't know, Razer, computer, like a peripheral company. Actually, the controller I use on Xbox is made by them. They have like these plastic masks with LEDs in them. They almost look like the masks you see on like DJs and stuff, but apparently they're COVID compliant. They're completely safe. They have interchangeable filters and stuff.
Like an air purifier built in. It's wild.
They just went into beta testing. They're beta testing masks. I mean, at this point, the way it looks like with the Delta variant, we might need them again. So I signed up for the beta. I definitely want this. Maybe at some point you're going to see the Overplayed podcast with Mills, the DJ. They're just going to call me DJ Mills with a Z at the end.
I don't want to be.
Z is the flavor.
No, I don't want to be in any event that you're DJing personally. I just don't.
All it is 80s rock, 80s hairband rock, but like I'm gonna do the thing they do on TikTok where they remix everything with like today. So it's like Miley Cyrus with like Leonard Skinnerd. Like just go back and forth. Put your hands up, it's playing my song, Home Alabama.
Well, thanks for listening. That wraps up this week's episode of the Overplayed podcast because Mills has killed it.
I mean, well, let's be fair. We all knew this moment was coming at some point. It was
Absolutely.
Just a choice whether it was going to be me or you. One of the two of us was going to do it.
I hope this is the clip they put in the little teaser this week. I hope this is it.
You do realize whoever does the editing on this podcast for the 60-second clip that goes up on like Instagram and on the Twitter, Overplayed Pod and Rare Drop Sports, by the way, on Twitter, like it's always something that makes me look dumb. You know that?
Because I don't do anything dumb in the podcast. It's literally just you.
It's because I'm the entertaining one. What can I say? I'm the one with the charisma. You're the straight-laced, slender man standing behind the tree waiting to scare everybody. I get it. It's okay. You try to flex once in a while. It literally looks like no. That doesn't mean that was not cue for you to show off for the YouTube, by the way.
Mills?
What is it? Are you really lifting weights? Folks, he is lifting weights. What in God's name is this? That's not going to help you dunk. You know that, right?
That's literally a massive arm right there. If you're not watching the video version, you're crazy.
So we're clear. I went back and watched James Harden throw you an alley-oop and watched you sail it off the rim the other night after we had talked. I want to be very clear. I get such pleasure. I tried to. So the new YouTube clip feature, I tried to clip you falling to the side after being crossed over by Harden, and I couldn't figure out how to download it.
Because you're a boomer.
Bro, if I figure out how to download this bad boy, because I don't want to illegally download your YouTube video, I'm GIFing it, and it's going up on Twitter, and it's never coming down. I'm just letting you know this is going to be a thing. One of these days, I will learn technology, and it will happen.
Thank you for not saying GIFing, by the way, because those people piss me off. GIF is peanut butter. GIF is what we're looking at for an animated image.
And everyone always tells me, well, the creator of the word. That doesn't mean the creator of the word didn't create the English language.
Exactly. Like when the holidays are around or it's someone's birthday, do you give them a gift or a gift? You give them a gift, okay? Drop the T, you have gift. There we go.
People are like giraffe. Well, that's G-E-I-R or G-I-R. G-I-R. I'm going to spell giraffe wrong.
Yeah, you messed up.
Wow, okay. G-I-R. That's not G-I-F, okay? It's different letters. The English language works one way, period.
We can agree on one thing, and that is GIF, not GIF.
Yes,
Amen.
I agree that it's definitely GIF, not GIF. And when I figure out how to work YouTube, because, I'm from the purple, I bleed purple, all right? When I figure out how to work YouTube and download clips from YouTube, I will embarrass you.
Why don't you just get you were just celebrating your nephew's birthday or something recently? Why don't you just get your nephew to teach you because you're a boomer and young kids know how to work the internet?
I'm pretty sure my nephew respects you, and I don't want to change that. Well, I would like my nephew to respect you and know you for the man that I don't know you to be. So
Respect your elders unless their name Mills.
I mean, why is it always elderly when you start talking about me?
This is great.
The first thing is always either I don't have a beard, which I have now, so you can't make fun of me for that anymore. By the way, it's immaculate. So we're clear. The lines, perfect. The jawline, everything, the cheekbones, something you wouldn't know anything about there. Pelican head. You and Zion. That's what it is. That's not cheekbones. What are you doing?
What are those? What are these? What is this?
What are you poking? What are you doing?
You see those smile lines?
Smile lines? That's age, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well.
You brought it up, not me. What have you been playing last week? Let's talk about this. I saw you start tweeting about maybe getting back into Warzone and then dipping out of it because of like the hackers again. What's been going on the facebook.gg/hardened crossover?
Oh, okay. Wow, this guy. Speaking of people that only have one joke. So been back on Warzone a little bit, but I've been playing more Apex, man. I know we talked about Apex recently, but that game has just like taken back over my brain. Like I've loved the challenge of it. I've been playing with a lot of different creators recently on it. It's just been really fun to like figure out like different play styles. And in Warzone, it's interesting because you can go 1v3, 1v4. Sometimes if you're lucky, if you play your angles right, you're good. In Apex, you cannot. And so it's retraining your brain that some fights when you get cracked, it's like, yo, I need to run. Like I need to evade. And it's not because you're a coward or you just don't have the gun skills. It's literally because you are not going to win that fight when you mix the abilities and the guns and the shields and the whole mechanics of the game. That game, more than any, you have to realize like I can take this fight or I should literally run as fast as I can away from this and regroup with my team. But man, last night we probably won 6 or 7 over the course of like a 4 or 5 hour stream.
Yeah.
It's super rewarding, man. Like I really, really enjoy that. Still playing Warzone here and there, but Apex has really been my cup of tea for sure.
So I have gotten my feet dipped back into it, with the exception of Madden, which just came out, which we'll talk about here in a second. I've dipped my feet back in the Avengers pool. For those who don't know, War of Wakanda came out this week. It is a massive update for Avengers, massive free update that releases Black Panther and an entire new storyline, which I think is 6 to 8 hours. And there's a lot of good about it and a lot of bad about it. They redesigned the UI, which I actually like. The T'Challa plays different than literally any of the other Avengers. He's quick. He pounces. He's got a really couple cool takedowns. He can bring Okoye down with him to fight as part of his ultimate. It's really awesome until you're not in Wakanda anymore. And that's what it is. So Wakanda is this absolutely gorgeous like background and environment, and the missions are awesome, and there's patrols, and there's like it was up for a minute and it came back down. There was almost like a horde mode in Wakanda as one of the missions. The problem is when you have to do missions in other places and you're like, all right, we're back in the snow. Okay, we're back in like this awful like desert land, and Wakanda just shows so much better. It shows off like graphically. It's lush. His palace is amazing. The lights flicker everywhere as you're walking through stuff, and like everything else just feels so plain compared to it. I think it's an amazing update. I think they've done a lot of things in mechanics. There's now puzzles in the game. There's a lot of different things you can do in the game, whereas before it was just beat people up, get loot, beat people up, get loot. So I think they're on the right path, and I think this turns a corner for them to the right path. They still need end game content, which they do not have. They still need that one grip of once you're done the story stuff and once you've got everybody up to level 150, like what's that Division 2 like grabber? What's bringing you back? Like the in-game events have been okay, not great. So I'm really excited to get T'Challa up to 150. I'm going to be playing it for a little while. Obviously, though, it comes at a really bad time for sports gamers in terms of like Madden's coming out soon, or Madden's out. Technically, when you listen to this, early access will be out. It'll be out the next day. 2K comes out September 10th, FIFA after that, NHL after that. Matter of fact, as you listen to this, NHL will already have revealed their feature set, and their first gameplay trailer I think is coming out Thursday. So A lot of stuff coming out for sports gamers, so I'm unfortunately gonna have to table Avengers probably a lot earlier than I wanted to.
Yeah, there's one thing I hope. I hope Square Enix can really figure out like how to get that like complete vision of those types of titles right. The same problem I had with Avengers, I also have with Outriders.
Outriders,
Yeah, like both of those games had really cool premises, but executionally, no. And Outriders had massive issues and kind of still has issues right now to this day from release. And so I really hope Square Enix as a company can kind of figure out how to get the whole package for those games to keep people intrigued, not just in the initial release, but in the long term, or else it just sort of puts them in a weird spot, you know?
Out of curiosity, do you feel like, and we'll use the case of Outriders and Avengers, do you feel like they're incomplete experiences? Like Outriders was never told to be like an end game. They always said, hey, you're going to play through this. There is stuff to do at the end of the game, but like it's not something we're looking to make a live service game out of. Avengers is a live service game, but it is very much carried by their story content. Do you feel like, first of all, that these are incomplete experiences? And I'm going to say more in the case of Avengers, like being a Marvel property, deserve a little bit more out of that. And then also, I hate to keep bringing it up but I said I would give companies this excuse until now. Do you feel like COVID really does put that kind of strain? Because COVID was around when Avengers released the first time too.
Sure.
Because I think it's about a month away from being its one year anniversary. Do you really think COVID continues to strain a lot of these companies for putting that extra polish that we got so used to? 2019, we were used to games really going over and beyond our expectations. Do you think COVID's kind of putting that damper on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think COVID had an impact, but my personal take on a lot of Square Enix titles is that they've always been sort of like, typically from what I've seen, again, my perspective, I could be very well wrong, short-sighted on the long term of games, right? Like I feel like the vast majority of games that company has built have been like single player IPs or titles that have like intrigue for story, and then they sort of don't really know how to do multiplayer as a company. Like they haven't really put out too many. There are some exceptions, right? Like was Square Enix also publishing Hitman, or is that Eidos?
That is Eidos Montreal, but I think Square Enix is behind it. I thought they were behind it. But it's definitely Eidos,
Yeah, they might be, but I just really feel like Square Enix, when it comes to a multiplayer title, Square Enix was behind. Eidos was designer, developer, publisher. No, IO and Square Enix. Okay, yeah. But yeah, I just feel like Square Enix as a company hasn't really figured out multiplayer, and that's just been, I don't know. I feel like they really transitioned to this. Outriders was built in a way that it should have been, you could argue, a live service title. It had all the elements and makings of a title that sort of has that feeling, but they just sort of were like, oh no, it's not a live service title. And I wonder if COVID weren't a thing, if it would have actually been a live service title. Marvel Avengers, even when I saw it initially, and a lot of people were hyping, and you were very hyped, it just felt like there was something missing for me. And then hearing different people and their experiences with it, like they had fun initially, and then it's that long tail piece of it was just kind of like, like it's okay.
Do you let me bring one more thing up Avengers, because it's a thought that I've always had. Do you think it would change if it was like Division, in that when you picked up gear, you could see the gear in your character as opposed to having full skins for some of the players? Do you think that would drive, when it comes to looter shooters in general, do you think the cosmetic feel of the loot, not just the gameplay feel, has something to be said for as that gameplay loop or that motivation to continue the loop?
Sure, because when I played The Division or Destiny or like any of those titles, one thing you always do is you get some gear and you're like, oh my God, look at this. And you go to your friend and you show up on the screen like, look at what I'm wearing. Look at this cool gun I got. Look at this cool armor piece I got. Look at XYZ. Like that's a fundamental part of those games. So I think to a degree.
Well, let's talk about what we like to look like in other games. Like we're a sports gaming podcast. We're pop culture. We love talking about other games. I think we both play other games pretty consistently. Madden is releasing as we speak. Madden 22 will be an early access still for most of you. If you're listening to this on Friday, the base game is out as well. Madden 22 has had a rocky beginning, but also there's a lot of good and a lot of bad to be said about Madden 22 right now. I don't know if you could say either right now. Talk about your experiences with Madden 22 as it is.
Yeah, man. Early access went out for the game Wednesday or Thursday for the EA Play trial of last week.
Mm-hmm.
At the point of recording, I've dashboarded, crashed, froze, whatever you want to call it, 94 times and counting. I've literally been keeping track. I have not played a single snap of Madden 22 on next gen. Last gen Xbox One version works perfectly fine. And before any of you little sausage finger murderers that are listening, trying to say, "Oh, if you had it on PlayStation, you wouldn't have this problem." People on PlayStation are having problems too. Not just
they are too.
Not just maybe to the severity that I am, but they are also having problems as well in a similar boat. I have went through. I will say, I'm not trying to come off as bitter, even though I am. Some people from the QA side of EA have been trying to work with me to figure out what's exactly happening, because I have one of the more extreme cases, unfortunately. But I have changed every resolution. I went up to 4K, 120 hertz, all the way down to 640 times 360p, which is essentially slightly better than a Game Boy, to try to fix this resolution. I have uninstalled the game 6 different times and reinstalled it back. I have literally tried different controllers, different monitors, different cables, different power cables. I have tried turning the system on its side, leaving it vertical. Every single thing you could possibly think of, I have tried. It is unbelievable that I've literally not been able to play any mode more than 2 minutes before the game shuts off.
Right.
So I have no idea how next gen plays. I've seen all the issues with the zones and stuff, but I have no idea.
So not outside of, I knew we had issues. You had issues with Outriders for a while. Outside of that, have you had any other issues with any other game on Xbox?
So that was the thing. There was a thought of like, hey, maybe it's your Xbox having problems with like a true next gen title. So I loaded up Black Ops Cold War, which is a next gen title. I put it on 120 FOV, field of view, for those who don't play PC games or shooters that have an FOV slider. Mm-hmm. And I put it on, I tried different modes, like the image quality, the performance based stuff, 120 FOV. I went into fire teams, some large maps, tons of people, ran perfectly. NBA 2K21 next gen works fine. Madden 21 next gen works fine. I literally went through a gambit of games that were next gen specific, and some of them putting them in like the image mode, so they were at the playing at the highest version of the graphics, which are typically more taxing on the system.
Right.
No issues. The only game that I have this problem with is Madden 22 on next gen. It is mind blowing.
So you are having these issues. If you're listening to this, you have had crashing issues. help.ea.com. The more people that report that kind of stuff, obviously, the more data they can get on that. Now, let's speak on the game itself. Obviously, you can only talk to so much of it. But personally, I can speak. I've been playing since, like you said, last week with the trial. There was an update that came out yesterday evening. That looks like it may have addressed zone coverage. With the exception of a couple of isolated incidences since then, I've noticed zone coverage is better. Specifically cover 2. Cover 2, any kind of deep blue zones, for those of you who don't know what those are, it's the 2 safeties, or if there's 2 safeties or a cornerback in cover 3, or cover 4, same thing with all the defensive backs moving back. Anything that has the blue coloring when you're looking at the defensive coach cam, they just wouldn't move. Like, they would just stay essentially still. That seems to have done a lot of good to it. I've tried a couple of different ways that I know to cheese the computer and see if I can get them to see the safeties to bite on like a tight end out. I think everybody knows tight end in, tight end out at about 10 yards. The safeties used to bite all the time. Now they're covering whatever the highest end routes are. So that's been looking better. Zone coverage has been looking better. The underneath, I'd still like to see a little tighter. Overall, what I will say is, I think this Madden is a little Jekyll, little Hyde, but more good than bad. Let's take the crashing issues out of that, because obviously that is a bug for what it is. I think franchise upgrades are extremely well done. It shows that they put time into the franchise mode of this game. we're seeing the staff modifier or the staff talents that you can purchase through it with franchise staff points are intuitive. They make you make choices because some of the trees get locked out when you go down one path or another. Nothing is overpowered, with the exception, I think there's one where you can get wide receiver +5 catching, which can be a little, I mean, it's pretty far down in the tree, but it's still there. I think it's for your offensive coordinator. Other than that, nothing's overpowered. It's more personal preference than anything else. Like your player personnel, you can go down the contract line or you can go down the trade line. It's whatever you want your trade values to be a little more against the computer, and you don't need to, or contracts to be a little better. That's the choices you make. Defensively, like you're your defensive coordinator, do you want to go more into a passing defense or more into a rushing defense? Do you want to deal more with injuries or more with XP? Head coach, same way. Do you want to build your staff better or do you want to, grow your players better? I love the idea of offensive coordinators being snaked and to another team as a head coach. And when you do that, you lose your talent tree. Like it would happen in real life. I have heard of coaches coming back as well. Like you can hire offensive coaches that have some like talent trees already built in. So it's not just completely zeroing it out sometimes. Sometimes it's worth spending some extra money. I've heard that the trade engine is still, well, not even heard, I've experienced this. The trade engine is still a little wonky, but I think roadmap-wise and podcast-wise, they've talked about trading is something they have on their future roadmap. I think they actually were going to work on the trade engine as a whole. Trade values were addressed in 21 in some of those live updates. But I think the big thing a lot of people are waiting on right now is scouting update. I think a lot of people are holding off on franchises for that week one. And a lot of people did that anyway with week one rosters. So I really hope they keep that scouting update kind of on schedule for that area. Because what they have done with franchises created a very good weekly game loop. And that is something that franchises not had, and in other games still doesn't have, and only the show, to date. The weekly strategy, I am so thoroughly impressed by how this is done. So again, I know you've had crashing issues, so let me explain to you what the loop is. Weekly strategy, you come in, you see your defensive like screen. You can see your opponent, their top threat, depending on what you want to get ready for. You see their league ratings for all of the stats about that. So like, let's say you're worried about deep passing, you'll see like the quarterback and his rating for deep pass accuracy, or his rating for yards per throw, or his quarterback rating, or you'll see the receiver and how many yards they have. And you can bring up a play call screen as well to see what their play call is in first and long, second and long, third and long, and third and short. So, and it will show the percentages of concept. So like if they're a team that runs inside, you'll see inside zone 33% on first and long. Third and long, you'll see 4 verts or verticals, or you'll see, whatever they run. So you can choose your strategy. Then you go over to your health screen. You bring that up. It tells you what kind of fatigue, because progressive fatigue is a thing this year. And yeah, I see you cheering, but it gets better than that, because there's no more of the having to earn medals in practice to get game plan boosts. Remember that from last year? You don't do the practices actively anymore. It's all simmed, but you choose whether you want your practices to be in full pads or half pads for the boost, but you also get fatigue back for that. And then you choose each individual position on offense and defense, not like offensive line, like literally left tackle, left guard, center, whether you want the starters to get the bulk of the reps, you want to split the reps evenly, or you want the backups to get the reps. So I did a Carolina franchise, and what I would do is I didn't think Christian McCaffrey needed any XP. I don't think he needed a game plan boost. I think he's good where he is. But Chuba Hubbard was one of those guys I wanted to kind of build. So I put the reps to backups. And what it does, it lowers the chance McCaffrey's going to get hurt, because there are now practice injuries that are short-term, 1 to 3 weeks. Yeah, no. You see what I'm saying? You see where this is going, right? You have choices to make that affect that week. And I'm talking about if you give your starters the boost, they get +5 boosts in certain places. Not overpowered. Like, so if you're doing like if you're doing like pass coverage, like your lineman will get +5 power move for that game. But if you split the reps, they may only get +2, where your backups will get +2. But your XP you'll get more XP to the backups. So you're building the team. So if you're a team like Detroit, where you're not necessarily trying to win all the games, you're trying to build these backups or build young players, you might split all the practices. Or if you're a team like Kansas City, you may let them practice in light pads and make all the backups take the reps, because you don't want to take a chance of Mahomes getting hurt or Tyreek Hill getting hurt or somebody, a key player getting hurt. Or, you know what? You can customize it. Let's say you're Green Bay, where you want to have some of your younger players getting reps, but you don't want Aaron Rodgers to get hurt. So you put quarterback at backup. You get the backup reps for the quarterback. Jordan Love balling out, by the way. But then you want like the other players to get their game plan boosts. And you do that for the defense, and then you go to the offense and do the same thing. It's so well done in making you want to go, all right, I feel like I have control of the game, even when you're simming through the menus. If you're just simming games, you feel like you have control over the game more than you did before. And you want to talk about storylines? Imagine having week 17, big game, or week 18, whatever. It's week 17. It's still 17 weeks, it's just 17 games. Game 17. Your season is on the line. You win, you're in. You lose, you're out. You decide, I want these game plan boosts. I'm going to put all my starters in. I'm going to full pads them with all the progressive fatigue. And all of a sudden, your quarterback sprains his ankle at practice. That's a storyline.
Yep.
Those are things. And what we've asked of them is what they've done here. We're giving you the pieces to tell a story, but it's your story. It's not this story on like rails. And there are, press conferences and conversations with your players. There's a storyline where a veteran player, if you're losing early in the season, he may come to you and say, my heart's not in it anymore. Matter of fact, this happened to me.
Someone have Khalil Mack do that.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yes. So what happened was the Bears. Now there's a couple of bugs in this for like if you trade players, it's not clean. They need to clean this up. But the idea of the situation is, I had this happen to me with a Broncos franchise. We were 1-2 going into week 4. Von Miller came to me and said, my heart isn't exactly in this anymore. And it makes sense. Von's old enough to where if he doesn't want to play the game, he said, if we continue to lose, I might just hang him up. You don't need me. You want younger players to probably get the time anyway. And I was like, oh crap. I told him, I tried to convince him to say, no, come on back. We'll play. But he came back, but you're going to love this. Certain stats took hits when he came back as his heart not being in it, which was like play rec. Not his like raw stats, but like some of the stats where like if he's not focused on the game,
mental
awareness,
side of it,
play rec, coverage numbers, like zone coverage numbers. Not his power move didn't go down, his finesse move didn't go down. He could still get there, but like certain individual numbers that would help him play more consistently, which I thought was really well done. And that's something that continues throughout the season. You get different storylines as you go. There are draft storylines now that aren't necessarily. That is like that right now. That's without the scouting update. I am stoked for that to be something that I continue with as we go on.
I love that. It's making the fact that I literally physically cannot play the next gen.
Sorry to say,
yeah. But look, what Madden, this is of course what happens. For years, I have begged and pleaded for franchise to get updates. Before years ago, I used to be in the studio just like you at events for feedback or capture or whatever, and saying like, hey, like franchise. And next year.
Yeah, right?
Finally do it. I can't even play the game. I'm happy to hear that though, man. Look, I mean, we talk about it ad nauseum. Storytelling in sports games, especially sports franchises, is of the utmost importance. I was browsing through the menus before the game locks up on me, and I was seeing that certain players were rumored to be traded, but it wasn't like, oh, they're rumored to be traded to the Cardinals. I saw where it's like a couple different storylines that say like the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Titans, some other teams. I was like, yo, they're literally starting rumor mills in franchise mode. So if you're just a user playing in a you versus the CPU for every team, now you're like, yo, this player's in the market, but other teams are talking to him. But if you're playing in a user versus user league, you're freaking out because you're like, oh my God, every team's looking at this dude. Should I look at him too? Like, I really love what they're doing. I'm sad I can't play it.
And again, I'm going to go over this real quick. I want you to imagine all of that. And then starting week 3 in September, once it comes, you're going to have the opportunity to play literally mind games with yourself and the computer, because the way the big board's going to work with scouting, for what they were explaining, is that if you scout somebody in like round 5 and you find a gem, you're literally going to put media coverage on that player and go, wait a second, the Ravens have been scouting this round 5 guy a lot lately. And the computer might go, oh, really? Well, why? And then you'll actually see him. The board is no longer a static board for every team. It's a media big board that moves around. Like players move around on the media board depending on how they're viewed as a whole, not necessarily just yours. And your player personnel department's going to play a part in that. Your talent trees and stuff play a part in that. By the way, I'm just guessing here. You look at the talent trees, they look empty. They look like there's a spot missing in every one of them. That I would guess this scouting update is probably going to add something to that. I feel like there's going to be scouting specific, because right now there isn't scouting specific traits. There are trade traits that make your draft picks more valuable. There are contracts that make your free agents more attainable. But right now, like, there's not like get more scouting points. And you know why that is? Because from what we saw from Bengals video on YouTube, they're not using scouting points like that anymore. So why develop the talent tree? If you look at the talent trees, there looks like there's this big empty spot in every one of them on the right-hand side that's not centered. It looks like, oh, wait, that looks like something might come there. So my thought is something will come there at some point, which makes me hugely excited because I'm already loving the upgrades as it stands now. And the CPU gameplay is a whole nother thing. I think the CPU calls a way better game now than they ever have. I have experienced end of game logic, both good and bad. Okay. I've experienced, matter of fact, we were playing the Panthers versus the Jets week 1. And when I tell you Zach Wilson took the ball at 158 and drove the ball down at me with a timeout at 147, a timeout at 113, and a timeout at 38 seconds, I was like, I have literally people in my chat going, wait, they didn't take the 101 timeout? Yeah, everyone knows the 101 timeout. Like it's a meme at this point in the franchise community. They didn't take the 101 timeout. That was the good. And then, of course, I've seen the bad where they take the 101 timeout and it's weird, but they still play it and call a much better game. And it's a much more enjoyable experience against the computer this year so far. I'm actually really excited. You know what I'm really excited for? Solo battles and MUT. Like, I'm really excited to play those. Because remember, there's offline content month that refreshes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you have a MUT team that you're playing offline, kind of like the way I am, I have no interest in playing head-to-head. But you can play solo battles starting next week. So, right?
Good point. That's a good point.
And think about it. You know, they take those teams with solo battles randomly from the community. So, like, if I have a Ravens team, there's a chance you're going to see Bills on there with like a Ravens squad as one of the battles. So I'm excited, man.
I would destroy your team. I do want to say though, I know it's not just this person, right? There are plenty of people that work on franchise and all those different things.
Yeah.
But I do want to say in Swami, I trust, like seeing Swami out there being able to talk about the game and when they did their whole, like round table of sorts. So they had like the big set and it was like Grady and I think Lichky and Swami on the set. We've known Swami for years, the passion that dude has. And there are other passionate franchise people that are on that dev team.
Deuce
seeing
Douglas,
them,
by the way, I'm going to call it Deuce Douglas because he's also on Twitter and it's come out and said. So the reason you're not going to hear us say anyone else other than those two, because those are the two that speak up the most about that, and those are the two that are okay being spoke about. Obviously we're not calling other people out like that. Finish what you're saying about Swami because I want to add on to it.
Yeah, 100%. And Deuce Douglas, we both saw for at least, I would say roughly the last 2 years for me, seeing the work that he put into the graphics and saying like, man, if I just had a chance, the franchise could be so much better. So yes, that was a bad omission on my part. Deuce and Swami, those two dudes are oozing football passion and franchise passion. And there's no coincidence here that that EA had the pressure of franchise mode being terrible, putting some young talented people in there that are fresher, I guess, for the franchise scene.
Agreed.
And allowing them to have massive input on this mode. You were seeing the best franchise mode we've seen in Madden, I don't know, a decade. I've honestly lost track because franchise mode had been so stale for God knows how long. So I'm
easily a decade.
extremely excited.
Easily a decade, by the way, for sure. And I want to add on to that. Deuce Douglas has been doing his franchise kind of feedback, and if you remember, he was the one with like the 200-page document that was like a franchise rewrite almost. And what was cool about that was when he got hired, it was quiet. Like he came out recently, but he's been with them for a bit, and it's been awesome to see Swami and Deuce. Like you could see the effect, and there are others obviously that are on there. From what we've heard. There has been their franchise team is bigger than it has ever been. It's really cool to see the effect of things like Swami has talked about with like the scouting idea. I mean, Swami's talked about that kind of stuff for a long time. Deuce has talked about multiple times in the way he brings things up, how a weekly strategy planning, phase would work, and you're seeing those ideas come to fruition. But like that doesn't happen unless EA lets them. And please understand, I'm not kissing EA's ass here. Okay, I've been called a shill before, and that's fine. Everyone knows that I do work with EA a lot. I'm going to be very clear. Like EA took a stance and said, we're going to design this game to our core players. Our franchise players are getting next gen movement is based in a simulation world, not like. If you talk to competitive guys, most competitive guys hate the new motion. But Clint Oldenburg has come out multiple times and stated, it's not changing. We have a commitment to the way this game moves. We have a commitment to next-gen stats because everyone thinks next-gen stats is a back-of-the-box feature. It's not. It's something they use for movement. It's why routes aren't exact anymore. It's why routes curve off sometimes. It's designed to resemble real life movement. Like if you do a 40 time of a guy running and then look at him run in real life, like that's supposed to mirror the way it is. And that commitment to the core players is the reason that this franchise team got to do what they got to do. So for once, I'm going to tip my cap to the people a little higher than all those guys for saying, hey, you know what? Screw it. Go do what you want. Go do your thing. Go do your thing, because it's normally those are the people that normally say, no, we need you to go do all this other stuff. Now, if we could just get these same people to work on face of the franchise and clean that up a little bit, because
Jesus Christ,
it's not Heartbreak Kid bad. It's not Heartbreak Kid bad, but it ain't good.
So obviously I have not played the face of the franchise mode, even though I could probably play it on last gen, but I have watched a significant portion because I was like, you know what? I literally don't know when I'm going to be able to play. I want to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's bad.
Yes. Also, side note, companies, right? If you have a mode in a sports title that you think you might want content creators to play in any way, shape, form, or fashion, right? Streaming it,
go for it,
recording it, whatever. Stop putting copyrighted music in there nonstop. I saw Drake. I saw all this other stuff in there. I was like, what is happening? You don't need that. Okay. You can license stuff from like Epidemic Sound or some other places that have like very good artists that will allow that to be in there for commercial use. You can do that and be just fine. We don't need Drake. We don't need whoever else is in there, because I haven't been able to get past very much.
You know what the worst part is? So one of the first things I do is I take the music slider in the audio settings and I drop it all the way down. It doesn't do anything. In this case, normally it does. In this case, it does nothing.
Same thing last year.
Which blows my mind that we're at this point in this world where you can't turn the music down. And it ruined it because a lot of the lines are voiced, and I think it's awkward conversation at best. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the lines are voiced. So like you're sitting there going, I got to turn this down because my stream's gonna get DMCA strike, or my YouTube is gonna be demonetized, or whatever else you want to talk about. Like, you got to know better than that. You want people to show off these things for you. You have to understand that they need the ability to show them off.
Yeah, I would say when I was there for whatever the first year of Longshot was, that was one of the first pieces of feedback I gave was don't use copyrighted music.
Yep,
and
music.
Here we are. So
it still blows my mind. I want to talk about one more thing is like the MUT component, because I've actually gotten deep into MUT so far. It's something that I didn't play at all last year. I'm really enjoying it this year. We haven't gotten any big promos because obviously the game's not out, but I will say there is a depth of offline content right now, and that's without solo battles, which is something I'm extremely excited for. There are, hold on, I'll give you the exact number right now. Exact number as it stands right now. You have, let's see here. Early access has 10 missions apiece, or 20 missions, right? The Gridiron Forge has 5 levels of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 apiece. That's 50 solos. The campaign, which is all offline stuff, has a full season, which is 17 or 18 weeks plus playoffs of, you get challenges where you upgrade your players. You get a team captain, which is an 89 overall at one point. You do like these little practice sessions. You play a full game versus a team. There's a ton of offline content right now already built in. And with the Superstar drop, the promo they're going to be doing on Friday, the Legends drop they do on Saturday, they're just going to continue to add to that. And again, I'll mention again because it's something I'm extremely excited for. Solo battles, which are going to be starting, I believe, on Monday, and refresh every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, are full games against community-made teams. So there's a challenge built in, and they are difficulty controlled. You can play on Rookie if you want. You can play on all Madden if you want. Or you can play on Ultimate, which is all Madden with the sliders riled up. And yes, they're on competitive, but that's everything on MUT. But you can literally play and get on the leaderboard and work towards something every week, which I think is incredibly important to understand, considering how much I bang on MLB for this. Having difficulty controlled offline content in your card collecting mode is essential, not only for accessibility, but for players that are a little, daunted by going head to head. This is a great way to allow them to play the game and use the cards that they're building up in your offline mode. So I think that's really cool. That's something they've had solo battles for a couple of years now, but I do think that's something that Madden has done very, very well so far, is provide a lot of offline content at release.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've even seen there's so much content. People have already gone to the max level. Like, I've seen an insane number of people that have gotten to level 50. And I'm like, I don't know. But people are also getting banned because they're doing solos so monotonously and quick. So from what I've heard,
it's not a solo thing. It's not a solo thing. Like, people doing the solos aren't getting banned for that. It's like there are legitimately like possibly bots going on.
My God.
Gutfox. So Gutfox is a Madden creator that I think we both know. He streams and creates YouTube content. He said this very clear, and I tend to agree with him. He used to go to bat for people that got banned because he has open line connection too. Until people that were banned came to him and were like, I got banned for no reason. And then he would contact and go, no, this is what he got banned for. And Fox would be like, oh, well, I just went to bat. I just stuck my neck out for you. A lot of people you see on the social media machine like to say they were banned for no reason. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not saying EA or big companies don't make mistakes. There are mistakes made, but a lot of people like to toot that, oh wait, I was banned for doing solos, when you were actually paying somebody else to do your solos, or you had a macro bot that was doing them automatically for you, which, yes, Everybody's aware that that's a thing. Like, and they try to play victim cards. So let's be fair.
True.
EA has said very clearly they do not ban for doing a solo over and over and over. It's when you do it through more deceptive means.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Makes sense. But you're right. There were bans coming out this week, and it was kind of crazy to watch that situation unfold.
Absolutely.
I want to bring up one more story, sports gaming wise, real quick, because this came out today from NPD. NPD announced their top game sales for the year, and this is not console specific. This is the top games. Call of Duty was number one. I believe. Hold on, let me just double check something real quick. Call of Duty was one. I forget what was three, but I can tell you what number two was, and it's going to be a surprise to a lot of people. MLB The Show 21 is the number 2 selling video game of 2021. I want you to tell me, obviously, some of this is they released on Xbox. But and Game Pass, I don't think Game Pass. Well, yeah, they did release in March. They've had a longer. Obviously, like a lot of stuff that comes out. We get big time gaming season for the holidays. But I mean, there's been some massive games that have released this year too. What do you think about MLB The Show being? And I don't think Game Pass counts as a purchase. So we're clear. I don't think Game Pass counts as a purchase.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a really good job of there was hype generation, and I will say that Microsoft generated a lot of hype. Microsoft was advertising in baseball stadiums. They had TV spots. They had adverts everywhere. So I think there was help there. But if I'm looking at the games that were essentially underneath, right? So to your point, Cold War, which released late last year, so kind of snowballed into 2021. MLB The Show released in April-ish, roughly. You have Resident Evil Village, which horror title, kind of niche. Super Mario 3D World, literally have no idea when that came out.
By the way, for MLB The Show, Xbox digital sales are not included in that number.
Good point.
Yeah, I just looked. There's a little mark. Yeah, digital sales are not included for when we're going on this list. It's going to be MLB The Show, Xbox digital, Sony digital did count. Super Mario 3D World, which is a massive to have that winning that without digital sales. Same thing. Mario Kart 8 was on the list, and Animal Crossing New Horizons on the list.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at this list, like Miles Morales only on PlayStation. Monster Hunter Rise, super niche title. Mario Kart 8 had released prior. Minecraft, it never leaves this list, I feel like. And the Animal Crossing, again, super niche title, only on the Switch. There are no major releases that came out. Obviously, we've seen a ton of delays going out, but I think by the end of this year, I would imagine FIFA is going to dethrone MLB The Show. I would imagine NBA 2K probably dethrones MLB The Show as well. I don't know if Madden does. They might be neck and neck, I would assume, but you never know. I don't think MLB The Show will be the second best selling game by end of year 2021, but it's still really cool that they made that much room. Even though it was a lesser year for star power and titles, they still had obviously a fantastic year for them.
I will say this because I have the July numbers. I mean, MLB The Show is still at number 7 and was 4 in June. That's still really impressive to me for some reason. Can we talk about that for a second? Miles Morales is the number 5 selling game of 2021. Yeah. Miles Morales is well, no, it's not PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's PlayStation. It was out on PlayStation
4 as well. Yeah,
it is on PS4. Never mind. So I guess that doesn't really. I was going to say, does it surprise you that something of next gen that high on next gen? But I guess PlayStation 4 did play it, so I guess you can count that. I'm legitimately surprised at some of the like Switch specific games that get that, even though I know how popular the Switch is, and I'm super impressed at the fact that MLB The Show is on this list as a sports game. For me personally, and knowing that MLB The Show always sold well on PlayStation, but seeing it like really, especially without Xbox Digital, because Game Pass is out of this. This does not count Game Pass, which was a huge activation for them. You're talking about people literally going out and buying the disc version for Xbox and still being PlayStation specific. I think that's massive. That's such a massive number for them. It's such a great showing for them with the show. I give them a lot of crap, obviously, for the offline content in DD or like the franchise updates they need to do, but that's still unbelievable showing for them in their first year in Xbox too. So congratulations to the MLB The Show team.
Yeah, bravo. Take that extra revenue, beef up that franchise mode team. Let's get it cracking.
All right, let's talk about some sports here. We're going to run a little long tonight. Week 1 of the NFL preseason is in the books. We're actually going to get ready up for week 2 coming up this weekend. And unfortunately, for those of you out there, moment of silence
NFL for legend.
The one, the only best tight end in the league, throws some of the best rolling blocks I've ever seen.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, Tim Tebow didn't mean to say that.
Tim Tebow is very offended right now. Tim Tebow was cut. Urban Meyer cut him personally, apparently. Tim Tebow, in Tim Tebow fashion, had a 4-tweet thread thanking the Jaguars for the chance to chase his dream. I didn't know playing tight end for the Jaguars was chasing a dream, but I want to talk about first, how do you feel about Tim Tebow not being able to accomplish his goal of becoming a Jaguars tight end?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think this is it's not nepotism because he's not related to Urban Meyer, but this is as close to nepotism and privilege as you could possibly get for Tim Tebow being a 34-year-old quarterback, college quarterback, turned brief NFL quarterback, turned MLB minor leaguer to MLB brief spring training camp major leaguer, back to being a minor leaguer.
Mm-hmm. Right on all accounts, by the way.
I'm not saying it doesn't. Then turned tight end in the NFL at 34, who threw blocks that the only person I'd seen throw a block worse than Tim Tebow would be me when I played tight end in 5th grade for like a week, and then I got moved away from that position. So I'm not surprised. Look, Tim Tebow seems like he's a fantastic human being, but I think he's got a calling elsewhere, and it's just not playing tight end or in the NFL anymore.
Wait, just out of curiosity, what position did they move you to?
You're gonna incite frustration and bad memories here. 5th grade, I'm playing in Major League Football, which is the name of it, which is probably not actually the name of it now. I think it's changed something different, but that was the name of our football league. I played for the Steelers, which I got lucky, my favorite team. The guy coaching thought his son was the greatest quarterback of all time, was going to be incredible. Thought he was a great pitcher too.
I hear the excuses already starting, by the way.
His son, I'm not going to say his name. His son was the starting quarterback for the first week and went out there and threw. I have never seen anyone throw as many picks as him outside of you in the game of Madden. Like, it was unbelievable. He was throwing lame duck after lame duck after lame duck. And guess who the backup quarterback was? Your boy. So they moved me from tight end, which I had no business playing at like 5th grade. I was like not even 5 feet tall. I was probably like 4'11". They then moved me to quarterback, and I was a scrambler machine. Did I throw touchdown passes? I had probably 2. But did I run the ball into the end zone nonstop? You bet. That's what I could do. Hand the ball off, run a couple bootlegs. I was fast and short, man. I was like Gary Coleman playing quarterback. So I knew I wasn't a tight end. Unlike Tim Tebow, I found my calling after,
I heard about 5 minutes of excuses being built, and then about 30 seconds of you touting your running the ball as a quarterback skills.
I have a photo of me. Hold on.
I'll
find the photo later. I have a photo of me on that. But I would also say I didn't last very long at quarterback because the next year I did well that season. The next year I come back, starting quarterback job. Okay. Your boy's ready to dominate. First week I get a concussion from a dude named Barry Sechrist, who was over the weight limit for carrying the ball. So he had to play defense, non skill based positions. He couldn't tout the ball. He hit me so hard, he turned my helmet sideways, gave me a concussion, and they just shoved smelling salt up my nose. And it was a ripperoni pepperoni.
Wait, how old were you?
That would have been 6th grade.
They used smelling salts on you in 6th grade?
I was out cold. They took me to the hospital, and I didn't play quarterback again. The dude literally hit me. The play was student body right, which was a fake halfback dive. You turn long, bootleg out to the right-hand side. It was going to be a quarterback keeper. I was going to be gone, and I was gone. Just didn't know where I was. I was on the
your soul left your body as the chunker laid on top of you like Saragoose on Ganon.
Dude, he was like 170, 185, and he was a 7th or 8th grader. No, he was an 8th grader. Don't play junior varsity football. I'm still mad about it to this day. I could have been in the league.
I can feel your anger. I can feel your anger.
Been in the league.
The young concussion answers a lot of questions for me. I'm gonna be honest. It
explains a lot, honestly. Yeah.
It does explain a lot. So Tebow obviously been cut. I want to talk about the Jaguars real quick though, because a lot of reports out of Jaguars camp is Urban Meyer's coaching philosophies, I guess, from Ohio State kind of made their way to Jacksonville, and the reports are he's treating a lot of the players there as college students, or like he would treat people in Ohio State, a lot of rah-rah, a lot of, hazing, or a lot of hazing I'm using in not the, beat people over the head with a plank idea, but a lot of like college-based motivation. Is Urban Meyer going to be one of these one and dones?
Yeah, I think I said on the earlier podcast, he's going by year 2. I don't think Urban Meyer, this experiment lasts very long. I think by year 2, I think he quits mid-year 2 or is fired mid-year 2. I don't think he lasts very long there.
All right, so let's move on to another team, team you find way closer to the heart. James Washington requested a trade officially this week, I believe.
Kind of not officially. It's weird.
Yeah, so the rumor of him with a trade request has been around. He's not denying it. Mike Tomlin has actually commented on it. There have been other players that have commented on it. James Washington is in a place where Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool are going to get the most of the reps for a team that honestly doesn't have very high hopes this year. Ben Roethlisberger is back. I think a lot of people think his arm is completely shot. I will say that there may be hope behind Roethlisberger showing up in camp recently, but talk to me about James Washington.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. But so James Washington, I like a lot. I think he has a very high ceiling. I want Juju Smith-Schuster out of Pittsburgh.
You've heard the new thing, right? The new TikTok thing he's going to do. He wants to go to now he's been known for going to every stadium and dancing on the logo or whatever for TikTok, and then saying, well, no, this is Juju, the TikTok star, doing this. And then I'm Juju, the football player, I'm not doing this to disrespect anybody. So now there's a TikTok with, what is it? Justin Bieber's new song. I think it's called Stay. But what it is like, it's a drone that flies around people as they're like dancing. Even Dr. Phil did it on TikTok, which is kind of crazy. People are going absolutely viral with it. But now Juju has said, I want to do this at every stadium as the season goes on. Listen, I get it. We're all for it. I think you and I have both said we're all for marketing yourself because the NFL won't market you for the most part. But this is a little far, right? This is becoming a distraction.
Do you know how frustrating it is, Mills, to finally have a player on your favorite team that gets national exposure, that he's in commercials, he's doing all these different things, and I have to watch him just dance, okay? It's not like I have a player and it's like, oh man, he's super talented, right? It's not like I don't have DK Metcalf, right? Like in Seattle where they're like, man, he's just 6'4",
chiseled
like
from rock.
Adonis.
DK Metcalf.
Yeah. He's a freak of nature. Like he's charismatic, blah, blah, blah. Like he's just cool. No, I got Juju Smith-Schuster, okay? Dancing. That's what I have.
I mean, he's a TikTok star. What do you want? That's what they do. You gotta do the dances. Are you on TikTok, Good Game Bro?
I'm not on TikTok. I don't want to be on TikTok.
I'm on the talk. You got to get on the talk.
I'm not. I don't want to be on TikTok. I don't have time for TikTok. TikTok's weird. Everywhere I go, someone's just dancing. There's a lot of this.
Do you want a drone?
No.
You got to get a drone with a little camera. Talk to Corey. Talk to him about the drone. Get the drone to dance around you. You already do the standstill thing. You're like this. You gotta shake your tush. Like,
I don't want to be on TikTok. TikTok doesn't make any sense to me. It's just TikTok is the late for small rant. TikTok is the laziest form of content ever. People go viral just watching. It's like reaction channels, which take some level of skill, but are some of the laziest and easiest forms of content, if we're being perfectly honest. But it's literally like reaction channels and people just dancing, people lip syncing, some people that dance are very talented, by the way. I'm just gonna put that out there. But some of them cannot dance at all and they're going viral, and I don't understand it. People that are just reading tweets from someone else who had the creativity come up with the tweet, they're just reading it and then giggling, and then TikTok ends and it has 8 million views. Stop it. Get some help, TikTok. I'm not going on TikTok.
How does it feel to have people with millions of views like that and you put up like a banger franchise video and like it just dies?
I have my self-respect. That's what I have.
That'll get you a cup of coffee. So, all right. So let's talk about James Washington, though. Bring up James Washington. Do you think he's valid? Do you think this is a valid trade request saying he should have more time? Is he talented enough to go to Tomlin, to go to that front office and be like, listen, I deserve more time. If you're not going to give me more time, put me somewhere else.
I think so. But here's the thing. He technically hasn't publicly acknowledged the trade. They asked him sort of about like, have you made a trade request? He just said that's a private conversation, which is acknowledging without acknowledging essentially is like what he's doing.
Right.
Mike Tomlin said that he has not. The players are saying that he has not. They're trying to tote it by the line. If there's a players coach in the league that I believe can get it right, it's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is absolutely a players coach. He is, as long as his players give him the smallest amount of respect, he goes above and beyond for them and fights for them. So I love Mike Tomlin. I hope he stays there for another 15 plus years or whatever. But I think Washington is just in a weird spot because you have Juju, who is obviously talented despite all the dance he does on TikTok. Claypool, who's doing well, but obviously he's had some injuries the past couple of.
Also a TikTok guy, by the way.
Sure.
It doesn't maybe not the same direction, but he's a content guy.
Then you have Deontay Johnson, who has been an absolute stud for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's been amazing for them. I agree.
So you have a really weird area, but if there is a team that has shown they've been happy in the past couple of years, it's definitely been Pittsburgh when Roethlisberger's big old burger is healthy. So I think there will be room for him. It's just Tomlin and the offensive coordinator have to figure out how they're really going to we have a new offensive coordinator too, so we have to figure out how they're going to manage that. I think Washington will be fine. It's just they've got to get him involved in some way.
Yeah. Talk to me about one other part of the of Pittsburgh, since we're going to highlight Pittsburgh a little bit here. Dwayne Haskins is starting to catch some headlines, especially with the backup Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is. The report is that Pittsburgh has seen enough of Mason Rudolph, like they know what Mason Rudolph is, and that Dwayne Haskins, who I believe I said this, and I think you commented on this as well. In the right situation, which was not with Ron Rivera, he wasn't Ron Rivera's guy.
Yep.
In the right situation, if he shows that he is committed to playing football, he is talented enough to be a good quarterback, not great quarterback, not, world beater, and he's still, he's still proving himself. He still has to, but he's starting to gain some headlines in Pittsburgh for showing up, on practice, looking good in practice, not looking terrible in a couple of preseason games, looking better than Mason Rudolph, which is not a high bar. Yep. I get that. Do you think at some point this season, we see Dwayne Haskins at the helm for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think there's a good chance, mostly because Ben Roethlisberger is not in great shape, right? We don't know the extent of the health of Ben Roethlisberger, especially from his arm injury that he's dealing with. We know that Ben Roethlisberger is not a great dude in terms of conditioning.
Right.
I would say there's he
did the beard shave thing. You noticed that, right?
Yeah.
He shaved the beard, looked like he dropped 20 pounds.
Yeah. I think you'll see Haskins at some point. But look, we both talked about it earlier in the year, or earlier when Haskins sort of came along.
Right.
Haskins was not going to work in Washington with Rivera. Once Rivera really put out that he wasn't his guy, the immaturity issues, all those different things. Maybe they were always there. Maybe they were manifested after that sort of benching. Who knows? But regardless, again, I believe in Mike Tomlin a ton. If there's a dude that can relate to a player and get a player to believe into a system, right. Mike Tomlin is one of those few dudes that I think can really connect with just about any player out there, from any background, any creed, whatever it is. Tomlin can connect with them. Haskins looked really comfortable. He's always had a big arm. His mobility is not great. But I mean, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have mobility, and look how great he's been in Pittsburgh all these years.
I was
going to
say, if you're gonna replace Roethlisberger with somebody like Haskins, if you want to, now I'm not gonna say he's Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer, but if you want to replace him with somebody that has sort of the same, I guess, archetype, Haskins has a lot of what Roethlisberger has, and at this point in his career, Haskins got a way better arm than Roethlisberger does. So it's gonna be interesting to see just how far this goes.
Yeah, there's a weird thing of Pittsburgh doesn't want to do players wrong. The Rooney family has always tried to make sure they go about doing things the right way. Right. They sometimes kept players a little bit longer than they should have. It's worked out for the most part, I think. But if there's a position they always get rid of early, it's wide receiver. Quarterbacks, they've typically sort of held on to guys a little bit too long. So we'll see what happens with Roethlisberger. I still imagine they're going to give Ben the benefit of the doubt for what he's done for the team. Multiple Super Bowls, you got to do that. But I wouldn't be mad seeing Dwayne Haskins in the field the way he's played so far in preseason.
Right. I can see that. And Haskins is one of those guys I'm kind of rooting for. I think you got a raw deal. And I love Ron Rivera. I think Ron Rivera is one of the better coaches. Again, another players coach. I think Washington, I've talked about it. We even talked about my prediction I'm sticking with so far. I think Ron Rivera is a great coach, cancer survivor, all those lovely things, by the way. We're not even going to talk about. Well, we talked about it last week with the whole cancer survivor and COVID thing. But Haskins wasn't his guy. And Rivera wasn't going to keep him around. And to that point, Haskins didn't show that he loved the game at that time. He is showing that now. The reports out of Pittsburgh is that he's showing that he wants to play football. He is focused to play football. And that is a dangerous thing for Pittsburgh because I'm pretty sure people in Pittsburgh are done with Ben Roethlisberger at this point. Between the injuries, between the off the field issues that he's had. And honestly, I know he had his time. He looked bad last year. People talk about his arm. I've talked about his arm. It doesn't look like he has zip on the throws anymore. And he's going to get one of those stud young receivers. He's going to get one of them hurt.
Yep.
At some point, whether it be Claypool or probably more so Deontay Johnson across the middle, he's going to get somebody hurt with that arm at some point. And Haskins, maybe Haskins leading somebody out to dry, but he's going to throw it hard when he's doing it. So I'm cheering for Haskins. I hope Haskins does well, and then I hope he loses 2 games to the Ravens every year. So. You didn't really think I was going to let that completely go, did you?
No, I should have known.
So let's move over to the NBA real quick. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green came out and kind of blamed the Warriors GM this week for breaking up what could have been one of the best teams we've ever seen. With an incident in 2018. Talk to me about what Durant, I think there's more Durant saying this and Green confirming. But talk to me about, Durant was on his new series Chips with Draymond Green. Talk to me about what they talked about and what was said about Bob Myers.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this came across my Twitter feed earlier today, and it's Draymond's new show called Chips, I believe, that he's airing. And obviously the first episode, you want to make sure you have a banger guest, something that's going to be, getting all the media attention.
Ain't no better bangers on the internet than Kevin Durant.
Exactly.
He will say a lot of stuff.
Exactly. So he gets KD on, and they talk about the situation, obviously, that a lot of people know about. If you don't know about it, it was the 2018-2019 season.
Yeah.
There's a visual argument between KD and Draymond Green that I think a lot of people thought was initially blown out of proportion, but turned out to be the driving stake in what turned the Warriors team away from one another. And they ultimately, went their separate ways. A lot of different things were said, and Draymond and Kevin Durant sort of gave context a little bit more about the situation. Now, keep in mind, we'd also had heard, I think 2 years ago now, Woj actually, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN now had Draymond and Bob Myers both on his podcast to talk about this. And Draymond sung a little bit of a different tune. Part of it, he did acknowledge that he didn't agree with how Bob Myers went about this, but he did agree that he should have been penalized and a couple of different things. On this episode, when he's talking to KD, he essentially says that the issue that both he and KD had was that Bob Myers was trying to dictate how it was supposed to go down in terms of like they wanted Draymond to apologize in a certain way. And Draymond is like, you're not going to tell me how I'm going to apologize. Like, if I want to apologize, I'll apologize. I'll talk to KD, and what happens, happens. Bob Myers obviously was in full panic because he knew that Kevin Durant this is the last year of his contract. So they were trying to do everything they could, obviously, to make sure that KD was, courted properly. But if you haven't, it was really interesting. I mean, they even throw Steve Kerr under the bus a little bit here. Keep in mind, Draymond Green still plays for the Warriors. He still plays for Steve Kerr. Bob Myers, I think, is still the GM, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So they're
both still in the same place.
Yeah. So there were a lot of things that Draymond was saying where he's basically saying like the reason that Kevin Durant left was Bob Myers trying to force Draymond to apologize in a certain way, and how Bob Myers and Steve Kerr handled the situation is why Kevin Durant left. And then Kevin Durant on the podcast is saying, yup, you're absolutely correct. The reason I left wasn't because of Draymond. It was because of Steve Kerr and Bob Myers, and I didn't like how they handled that situation. And that showed me that we weren't really a family, and that I couldn't trust them, and I needed to go elsewhere for my career.
Right.
That is massive for a current player to throw not only his head coach, but his GM under the bus on a public show. I've always said that Draymond would be great for television. I just didn't know that he'd be great for television media right now while he's still playing in the NBA.
I think Draymond would be good. I think Draymond's good more in the Shannon Sharp way than like the analytical way.
Sure.
A lot of players move on. There was a gentleman who played soccer for AFC Richmond by the name of Roy Kent.
Oh yeah,
who does really well on a soccer show now. Shout out to Ted Lasso, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. That being said, he's an entertainer. They know entertainment. He knew bringing Durant on was gonna create a big story. So the problem is here now. Kerr and Bob Myers are still, as you said, with the Warriors. So is Draymond Green. Like Durant's in Brooklyn right now. Draymond Green is still on that team. And you want to talk about that 2018 team? So is Clay. So is Steph. Like that team is not the base pieces, the cornerstones of that team are still there. And they're expected to compete next year if Clay's healthy, Wiseman will be back. Draymond Green, even though he's really declined a lot. Steph obviously has maybe 2-3 more years in his prime, if that. Why? Why do this? Why take this? Was not just, by the way, I brought up Bob Myers. This is about Kerr too.
Yeah.
This is not just Bob Myers. This is Draymond taking a swing at Steve Kerr, who is his active coach right now. What is the purpose? Why do this? I get that you have a show, but
self-serving though. It's self-serving.
That's all it is. That's all it is. There's no way Draymond can walk into that locker room for training camp and look Steve Kerr in the face, right?
I mean, I think he can. I think he's going to say something. I think
tell me I was wrong.
Draymond did this for Draymond. Kevin Durant did it for Kevin Durant and for Draymond. KD and Draymond just spent weeks together in the Olympics as well. And so this was a thing that they probably talked about of like, yo, we need to clear the air. I don't know who started the conversation, probably Draymond because he was a show. But this is an interesting thing. I want to see how it plays out. For me, this feels like Draymond sort of being like, look, I'm going to clear the air and show that I wasn't the bad teammate everyone thought that I was. Again, speaking from probably his perspective. And then this frees him up to then go somewhere else, right? Like, I think Draymond still wants to make a title run if they don't do it in Golden State. The weirdest situation in the world would be a buyout where he ends up in, Brooklyn. Or I could even see him being in LA in some capacity. But like, Draymond is a smart individual and Draymond knows exactly what he's doing. I just think he's setting himself up to clear the air about not being a bad teammate because he's a dude that wants to prove that he was right. Like he wants to say like, look, yes, I messed up. I owned up to it. Me and KD hashed it out. We were good. But KD admitted it wasn't even that. It was how the Warriors tried to sort of put a mask on the situation and Band-Aid and, make Draymond sort of like out to be worse than it essentially was from his perspective. I just think Draymond's future planning for a departure, trying to go somewhere where he can be that guy to, still be an impactful guy in a championship.
I want to talk one more thing about NBA before we get out of here. Patrick Beverley had a couple of trades happen to him. He went from the Clippers to the Grizzlies. Then a couple days later, the Grizzlies shipped him off to Minnesota. His response was essentially, I'm really going to enjoy being in Minnesota. A lot of young guys here ready to eat. Unfortunately, the young guys play his position, and there are multiple of them that would be playing around him. Pat Beverly at 33 has lost a step. I don't think anyone can say that he hasn't. But, and let me go a little NBA 2K here on you. If there is someone that's going to mentor these young swingmen and these young guards about how to play defense and how to get into people's heads, well, I mean, unless Chris Paul, I don't think that there might be a better like defensive guard in the league right now than Patrick. Not right now, but like learning from is Patrick Beverly.
Sure.
This isn't someone that's going to get meaningful minutes for the Wolves, right?
I don't think he gets meaningful minutes from a full game perspective, but a crunch time matchup perspective, yes. I still think he's going to get some interesting stuff going on there. I'm also not pointing out or putting away the fact. Keep in mind that the Wolves are in the midst of being bought out by new ownership, right? A-Rod and that whole group officially got approved. So at some point that will become official and there's new ownership. What does new ownership love to do in a sport like the NBA? They love to make a splash. Beverly, I think, might be a piece that stays. Don't roll out a Ben Simmons trade where Ben Simmons ends up somehow in Minnesota. And then you have that, which then gives you the ultimate defensive sort of like compartmental thing you can sort of shift around. I would not be surprised if Minnesota makes a trade for a guy like Ben Simmons. I still think that happens.
I don't want to go too much into the weeds with Ben Simmons because I think we've talked about Ben Simmons over and back. I saw some of the proposed trades that people were talking about where they're getting like first round picks or first round swaps and stuff. I'm gonna be real. If I'm a GM in the NBA, he's not worth a first round pick for me. And unless I'm the back end of the first round and I don't have like I'm worried about you working him as a 4, maybe off the bench. Like, I'm sorry. I just can't say that with his issues right now, if Philly's ready to get rid of him and Philly's at the top of the league, do you really think he's worth a first round pick?
Talent, though.
At this point, multiple?
Talent. You are not going to find a 6'10" left-hander that should be a right-hander that can get to the bucket whenever he wants and that can guard all 5 positions.
Right.
His main issue is shooting. Every NBA coach is a fixer by nature. I can fix that guy. I can make that guy better. I can be the coach that turns him around. I can be the one that unlocks his full potential. I guarantee there are multiple first rounders for Ben Simmons. Unless something catastrophic happens, if Ben Simmons is traded, there are 2 first rounders involved in that, claiming it 100%. I just don't see a world where you trade that guy without getting massive deals back. There's too much talent on the other parts of basketball. You can make him a small forward and you're still okay.
Yeah. I don't know that I disagree. I think Simmons has things that he can obviously do. I just don't know that I can I don't know that I can risk the draft picks on what establishes out to a project for the money he's making. For the money he's making against the cap.
But think about it though, Mills. You put, I don't know what the lineup is, but like, what if you had, I guess, Russell, Ant, Simmons, or no, maybe you don't have Ant. Maybe it's like Beverly, Russell, Ant, Simmons, and Cat.
Right.
That's a pretty disgusting starting 5.
I'm not saying it's not. I just, I have the same worry that I would have had in any other way. Is like, it's a disgusting starting 5 that I still worry about Simmons being a max player at this point and taking that cap up for somebody that, you can't trust in the last 6 minutes of a game. Like, if he's on the floor in the last 6 minutes of the game, teams are going to attack him. So, you know what? Maybe it does. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. One last thing I want to bring up. I know I said the last thing was the last thing, but this one's the real last thing. So NBA 2K22 started bringing up their ratings this week. And as what has become a yearly event, Kevin Durant says he should be a 99. The Brooklyn Nets have said pretty much they should be too, or that they don't hear a single lie. LeBron James, should be 99. Steph, who's a 96, by the way, these are all 96s I'm bringing up, says should be a 99. And then Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks, he's an 89 overall and said, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. Feel like we do this every year. Y'all ever going to get it right? Laughing emoji, can't play it yet. Devil horn, like all kinds. I don't know what these kids are doing with emojis these days. I don't care. I'm yelling at the cloud. Is this ever going to change? Like NBA stars thinking they should be 99s? And you know what? Should they, GGB?
Every player thinks it should be rated higher than what they are. 99 is incredible. I think 2K across the board has typically been more harsh on the scale of like, they evaluate 99 as basketball perfection, right?
Yeah,
You've seen LeBron has had
I
a
think
couple times.
MLB The Show does a lot of the same thing with Trout being a 94 and 799.
I think Trae to 89 might feel wrong to people, but I think it's people are doing it on the scale of 89 out of 99. I think you need to do NBA 2K in particular. You need to do it on the scale of like, what is the comparison for other players? So Trae's an 89, Jason Tatum is a 90.
Yeah.
So if you're comparing Tatum and Trae Young, I don't have as much of an issue with Trae Young being an 89 if you're valuing Jason Tatum at a 90, right? Like I think there's comparable parts, and there are parts that Tatum is like significantly better. There are parts that Trae is way better, but they're close, and I'm okay with that. So while I'm sure Trae Young wants to be rated higher from their scale, I don't have as much of an issue with it.
And we should still get rid of overall ratings, right?
No, I think overalls are valid. I think the rating combo could be an entire episode. Good God. But
we should do a rating combo at some point.
Agreed.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. So, all right, well, wrap this up. I think it was a decent episode here. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more Madden as the game is out, as GGB can finally run it at some point. I want to hear. I'm very interested in hearing your impressions on the franchise upgrades. Hopefully next week, and then getting closer to NFL season. We're getting closer to NBA training camp. Man, I'm excited. We'll talk more baseball in September as the playoff race comes in. I've got a couple of thoughts on a couple of the teams, including the Red Sox, the Yankees, kind of like switching roles this year. So, or this late in the year. So we'll talk more about that next week. But what do we got here? Finish me up. Finish it off.
Yeah, we got a lot of great stuff. Next weekend, we have college football sort of starting back up. So expect next week episode to have a little bit of college football flair into that. And we'll talk about the things, but college football is going to be a big part of that, I have to imagine. But great episode, Mills. I do hope that I can get these freezing issues figured out so I can at least contribute somewhat more into Madden.
So do I.
But look, you guys know the deal. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. Catch you guys on the next one.
Ciao.